Wesley had always been drawn to the allure of Airbnb, the promise of unique and personal travel experiences. He had heard countless stories of people staying in charming, hidden gems, tucked away from the bustling touristy areas. And so, when the opportunity arose for him to spend a few weeks in a quaint cottage nestled deep within the woods, he jumped at the chance. The cottage, a cozy haven surrounded by towering trees, looked like something out of a fairy tale. Its charm was undeniable, and the solitude it offered was exactly what Wesley craved. He arrived with a sense of excitement, ready to escape the mundane routines of his daily life. The first few days were serene. Wesley explored the surroundings, hiking through the dense forest and breathing in the crisp, fresh air. But as the days turned into nights, a subtle unease began to settle in. He would hear rustling outside the cottage, distant footsteps that seemed to come closer each night. Wesley brushed it off as his imagination, convincing himself it was just the sounds of the wilderness. One evening, as he sat by the warm glow of the fireplace, his attention was caught by a small, faded photograph on the mantel. The photo featured a young woman with a radiant smile, standing in front of the very cottage he was staying in. The handwritten note at the bottom read, "Forever in our hearts, Emily." Wesley's curiosity was piqued. He decided to do some research online, hoping to uncover the story behind Emily. What he discovered sent shivers down his spine. Emily had been a vibrant young woman who had mysteriously disappeared from the cottage years ago. The details were scant, but the chilling part was the lack of closure. She had never been found. As darkness fell that night, Wesley's unease grew. He locked all the doors and windows, trying to shake off the creeping sense of dread. He couldn't help but feel like he was being watched, a sensation that seemed to be lurking just beyond the shadows. Days turned into nights, and the feeling of being watched intensified. Wesley's nerves were on edge, his every sense heightened. He could hardly sleep, his imagination running wild with thoughts of Emily's fate and the eerie presence he couldn't escape. One night, a soft tap on the window shattered the silence. Wesley's heart raced as he cautiously approached, peering outside. Moonlight cast an eerie glow, revealing the figure of a woman standing just beyond the glass. Panic surged through him, his mind racing to make sense of the impossible sight. With trembling hands, Wesley hesitated before unlocking the window. The woman's face was pale, her eyes wide and hollow. She looked exactly like the girl in the photograph. "Emily." Before he could react, she whispered, "Help me," her voice barely audible. Fear and compassion battled within Wesley. He wanted to help, to unravel the mystery that surrounded Emily's disappearance. He decided to leave the safety of the cottage, guided by the flickering lantern he held tightly in his grasp. The forest seemed to close in around him, shadows dancing and twisting like malevolent spirits. Emily led Wesley deeper into the woods, her presence hauntingly ethereal. The forest became a labyrinth, the trees twisting and contorting into unnatural shapes. Wesley's pulse quickened as the air grew colder, and a foreboding sense of doom settled upon him. Eventually, they arrived at a clearing, and Emily stopped, her gaze fixed on a dilapidated cabin. The atmosphere was suffocating, a palpable aura of malevolence surrounding the decaying structure. Emily's voice trembled as she whispered, "This is where he kept me." The realization hit Wesley like a thunderbolt. The man who had taken Emily captive must have been the same person who haunted his nights, the source of the rustling sounds and footsteps that seemed to encroach upon his sanctuary. As the truth unfolded, a menacing figure emerged from the shadows, a sinister smile etched across his face. Wesley's heart raced, his survival instinct kicking in. He turned to flee, but the forest seemed to shift and twist, disorienting him. The man's chilling laughter echoed through the trees as he closed in. In a desperate bid for escape, Wesley sprinted through the woods, his breath ragged and his heart pounding. But the man was relentless, always just a step behind, his malevolent presence closing in like a tightening noose. Wesley's desperation pushed him to his limits as he navigated the labyrinthine forest. Every gasping breath felt like a knife in his chest, but the adrenaline coursing through his veins gave him the strength to keep going. He could hear the man's heavy breathing and taunting laughter, driving him forward even as his legs threatened to give out. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Wesley stumbled upon a hidden path, bathed in a faint, eerie glow. With renewed determination, he followed the trail, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The path led him to the edge of a cliff, overlooking a churning river far below. Wesley's heart sank as he realized there was nowhere left to run. He turned to face his pursuer, his chest heaving and his mind racing for a plan. The man emerged from the woods, his expression a twisted blend of rage and sadistic glee. "You can't escape, Wesley," the man sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You're just another pawn in my game." Wesley's resolve hardened. He refused to become another victim, another chapter in the man's sinister tale. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged at his assailant, catching him off guard. They grappled at the edge of the cliff, teetering dangerously close to the precipice. In a final, desperate struggle, Wesley managed to break free, sending the man tumbling over the edge. The man's screams echoed through the night as he disappeared from sight, swallowed by the relentless river below. Exhausted and battered, Wesley collapsed to the ground, his chest heaving as he tried to catch his breath. The forest around him seemed to sigh in relief, the air no longer heavy with malevolence. As dawn broke, its gentle light began to wash away the darkness that had clung to the woods. Wesley eventually made his way back to the cottage, his body and mind weary from the harrowing ordeal. The memories of that fateful night would forever haunt him, a reminder of the darkness that could lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic settings. In the days that followed, authorities arrived to investigate the man's disappearance, piecing together the twisted puzzle he had woven. The truth about Emily's fate was finally revealed, bringing a semblance of closure to her tragic story. As Wesley returned to his normal life, the memories of his terrifying encounter lingered. The cottage, once a sanctuary, now held a sense of foreboding. He couldn't help but wonder if he would ever truly escape the shadows that had enveloped him in that remote forest.